Hello, everybody. BL Carter here, back with some more police activity in Texas. And this time I'm going to talk about the mass shooting in Dallas that occurred in June of this year. I had actually looked at this and I did some research on it, was going to talk about it and decided I wouldn't. But in light of recent events, I'm going to go ahead and do this and put it out there. First, let me acknowledge for this shooting and every other shooting where a person has lost their life to a firearm, whether it's a shotgun, a rifle, a semi-automatic handgun, a revolver, an automatic, whatever it is. My condolences to the families. And my sincere desire that we learn to resolve issues and conflicts some other way. Second, the particular shooter in this particular case is Brian Clyde, or was Brian Clyde, and I used one of his memes previously in regards to my video on would the government really do that? Because he made some reference to the government doing things like MK Ultra and various other programs that go against the benefit of the general populace. And so my use of that meme does not mean that I have any allegiance to him or that I support him or anybody else for that matter going rogue and shooting up places and people and stuff like that. I'm totally not in agreement with that at all. The meme was fitting for the circumstance, and so I used it. But it has nothing to do with any ties to Brian or any allegiance to him. So now let's dig in. I want to say it was June 17th. We had another active shooter situation in the Dallas area. And as I browsed the articles and interviews, several things jumped out at me. It just was screaming at me. And I'm going to share those with you. Notice I do not have the gentleman's name on the screen, nor do I have his photo. I do have his photo. I do have his name. I've got social media posts and some other things. But I chose not to include them here because I don't want to make this about him. Some people who are looking for fame may decide that this is a way that they can get their last few minutes of fame and go out with a bang. And so I don't want to participate in that. I think the issues, the concerns can be expressed without giving fame, if you will, to the shooter. So, and I definitely want melanated people, black people to pay attention here, since we seem to be targets with the police a lot. Reacting out of emotion is really a good thing. Obviously, unless you're in self-defense, you see something going on and you're in a self-defense mode, you may not be able to remove the emotion. But if you can remove emotions in situations, remove the emotion, analyze the situation, and then act accordingly. So this particular scenario is the perfect one, I think, for black people to look at, because this particular one removes the race factor and allows you to look at the entire situation without race being involved. So now let's talk about the actual matter. Bottom line, some guy, he uses a weapon, an AR-15 style, and shoots at the Dallas Federal Building. So my first thought was, okay, not again. And then as I watched the videos, I watched the interviews, I read the stories, I listened to the police chief in the area, and I can't call her name right now, and I don't have it in front of me. Several things are staring back at me. Several things are just kind of floating through my mind. My first question is, how did he make it that close to the federal building? after Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma, and a couple other federal attacks around the world, around the country, excuse me. Federal and other government buildings, airports, and stuff have beefed up security. Many you can't even get close enough to the building like that, with a big old rifle in your hand. Um, you can't even drive up close enough. But apparently, this I would assume it's an older building, and you walking right in off the street into the building. So that may be something they might want to look at. Although, if someone is coming on foot, I'm not sure how they'll handle that. So actually, people in the area, watch out, because eminent domain may show up real soon to grab a few hundred yards or whatever of your property, so that they can create a DMZ zone around that building. That's just an aside that just popped up in my head, but just keep that in mind. So the other thing was, with all this shooting going on, and I'm going to put a link to the videos. I did not, YouTube is getting really crazy about what we play and don't play and show, etc. So I'm going to link to the videos that several bystanders, several witnesses took. But in one of the videos, you'll see two white vehicles in the road. So one of them looks like it might be parked, but the other one was clearly in the middle of the road, and it stopped. And this white truck just sits there in the middle of the road while all this shooting is going on. And once the shooting stops and the man passes by, the driver just drives on like everything is normal. He didn't burn rubber getting out of there. He didn't lose control. He just drove right on through like everything was okay. So that was kind of shocking to me. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have driven up on shootings, but I have driven up on shootings in process. I mean, with my own two eyes, close enough I can see the smoke coming out of the firearm. And I can throw a vehicle in reverse and back down a road real quick. I had to learn the hard way. Or bust a U wherever there's enough space for my vehicle to get through and get the hell out of Dodge. So I thought it was mighty strange that this man is just sitting here in the middle of the road, and you've got a man in front of him, I don't know, a couple yards or whatever, with a semi-auto with an automatic rifle, an AR-15 style, I believe, just firing away. And the man never tries to back down the road. I didn't see any cars behind him, so he doesn't try to back down the road. He doesn't try to U-turn or whatever to get out of there. There's a parking lot right directly to his left. He doesn't try to go into the parking lot and get off that street and kind of go around another way. He just sits there. That was really, I don't know. I don't know where his mind was, but maybe he panicked. Who knows? The next thing we see when we watch the videos, when our shooter, and I'm going to try to say shooter, I don't want to address his name because, again, I'm not giving him any fame at all. When the shooter is down, you see he takes a hit and he stumbles and lands to, where all we see is his legs sticking out from around a car. Now, how many times have we seen people shot and all we see are the legs? And we hear that that's the person we thought it was. I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just saying, all we see are his legs lying still from around the car. We don't see his face for sure. We later see in the video a cameraman in the middle of the crime scene, just snapping away pictures. This is not a police cameraman. This is not a forensics officer. This is just a regular news reporter, stepping all around, all over the place, just taking pictures of the body and all. None of those pictures were released. And yeah, maybe they don't want to release a picture of a deceased person. But, if they could have covered his face and then taken a picture so we see the full body. But this happens to be the same cameraman. If you look in the video to the bottom right of the screen, there is someone crouched in a little corner. This is that same cameraman. And I'm going to talk about him in just a second. But yeah, this is the same cameraman. Now, this man that's crouched to the right of the screen, he kind of took a what's maybe a 2 foot, not even 2 feet, a little dip in the building, a little crevice, if you will, and he kind of hides behind that. And he's a news reporter, Tom Fox, and apparently he was heading into the building at the same time to cover, whatever, some case that was going on that morning, some particular court trial. So he told them the Dallas Morning News, that he saw a man in a mask, and the man was parked at the corner of Jackson and Griffin. So he saw the man parked, and he said he ran. Well, the man ran. The shooter ran, and then the shooter stopped to pick up something off the ground. And the cameraman, Mr. Fox, thought it best to hide in that little alcove, that little crevice there, instead of run across the street, or instead of run the other direction, instead of hiding behind a car. And let me tell you, Mr. Fox, ain't no job or no award or no whatever accolades they give you at work worth your life. I'm going to tell you that first of all. So I hope you would think twice about that going forward. But it did strike me as kind of odd that he chose to, if he could see the man in a mask parked at the corner of Jackson and Griffin, and then as the man is running, you decide to hide in an alcove. Now, if you're in the alcove, then from what I could see, your back would have been to him. He later says that, he took a picture, and if you go out there, you'll see the links. There's a picture, a full frontal, almost close-up of the shooter. How is it that Mr. Fox knew exactly the time when the man was going to bend down to pick up something, providing him an opportunity to take a picture, a full frontal picture of the shooter? I thought that was kind of strange. But nevertheless, he took that chance to look out, and he snapped a picture of his face, full face. And the picture showed the gunman looking directly toward the camera. If no one else was on the street, the gunman had to see him. I mean, it wasn't like a crouched picture where half of it is the wall and half of it was a full picture, like he had enough time to stand out in the sidewalk and take this man's picture. And with the gunman looking in that direction, he had to see him. I also, asked, was there an intent to hit anyone, or just to scare people and do a suicide by cop something? Further research, and you'll see it in the links, his parents, divided. His mom's, she had a recent conversation with him that morning, or like within a few days prior, and he told his mom he wasn't depressed anymore. He was doing great. He was kind of looking forward to some things in life, but his dad still felt that there were some issues, and the dad thinks this was his way to plan a suicide. So, as you continue to click these links, one of the witnesses, Kelly Carter, he says at about 8:35 he heard 20 shots. Now, that kind of got me. At 8:35 he heard 20 shots. So, okay, he's got a time and he's got a number of shots. He said he knew it was gunfire and he immediately assumed it was an active shooter. And that's apparently what the police are saying. So here's my first question. Why is he automatically trained to think active shooter when he hears what he believes are gunshots? Must be an active shooter. And for him to is trained to think active shooter, people don't use that term. That's not everyday language. So for him to automatically think that, it just kind of stuck out to me. He said he saw guards return fire and chase the person to the parking lot. Now, he saw guards return fire. Again, police background, military background, some sort of law enforcement officer background for him to use the term return fire. The average person doesn't talk like that. But when he says that, if you watch the interview, you notice his eyes look away for a split second. And he almost turns his head. The audio is cut, becomes inaudible for a section, for a moment in there. And then it looks like he's picking up a cue or something from somebody, or maybe he missed a cue, I don't know. But it looked, I played it several times and I can't say for sure what he was trying to say. But there's something in that little area that was kind of concerning to me. And then he goes on to say that they found a suspicious device in the lot in front of their building, and they're unsure if it's attached to a car, if it's in the parking lot, or if it's detached somewhere. Again, he's given information that for someone who is observing from afar, the details that he's given, where's he getting this information from? How would he know what was found? How would he know whether they were unsure where it was, whether it was in the car, whether it was in the parking lot, or detached, or whatever? And he said they evacuated his building out of an abundance of caution. Yet again, abundance of caution. People don't talk like that. Average Joe Schmo is going to say, for security reasons, or just, to make sure, or to be, to fully check the building. They want everybody out so they can just do a once over. Why would there automatically be an assumption that the man put a bomb in this particular building, which is not the federal building? It's another building across the street from the federal building. So if the man is targeting the federal building, why would he have put a bomb or something in that other building over there? And it's out of an abundance of caution that they evacuate the building to kind of do a check. But he obviously doesn't talk like that because he was kind of stumbling trying to say it. So that's not his normal language. Again, makes me wonder if he was prepared. And then he comes back later and says he could only see the guards rush toward the shooter. But then later, well, he says he could only see the guards rush toward the shooter, but then comes back later and says he thinks the guy went into the parking lot and was hiding behind some cars. So, did you see them return fire and chase him into the parking lot? Or do you think that's what happened? Because at one point he says that happened, and then he comes back later and says he thinks that's what happened, but he couldn't see. So, question that witness. Next witness, Mr. Don Miles. Mr. Don Miles said he was walking at 8:38 a.m. when he heard shots fired. Again, who talks like that? Who is walking across the street and looks at their watch for an exact time when they're walking? He says he heard 10 to 15 shots, all rapid shooting. Again, who talks like that? Who uses the term rapid shooting? So he's walking across at exactly 8:38 a.m. He hears shots fired. It's 10 to 15 shots, rapid shooting, and so he stops to look at his watch. And then as he saw other people running out of the building, he turned and ran along with the crowd into the traffic. Think about that, guys. Another witness, Michael, who lived in the apartments across the street, he reported the shooter had a semi, maybe an AR-15. And side note, they've already banned the AK-47s. Now they're coming for the AR-15s, for the ARs. So Michael says he saw this guy come running down Griffin, and he heard 5 rapid-fire shots, but he saw nothing. And so again, I say, what citizen, whatever average Joe Schmo says, I heard 5 rapid fire shots. I heard 10 to 15 shots rapid fire. People don't talk like that. I heard 5. Bap, 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 bap. I heard 5 in succession, repeatedly, one after another, one after another. Rapid fire, that's not normal language for regular citizens. Next witness, Mr. Tim Brown. He's a witness from the building. He's a little higher up. Now, he has a video. He videoed his cell phone. And from the videos, you can look and see it appears that they've got kind of a little balcony area, but there's also a glass there. It's a concrete, it's a brick. Maybe the first half of it is brick, and then the top half is glass. And so his video shows puffs of smoke to the bottom right of the screen. And that's allegedly from the feds returning fire. The feds are returning fire. Again, returning fire. What about firing back? Okay. Yeah, maybe he's prior military also. So all these people are prior military, prior law enforcement, or prior some career that has them talking like this. But you don't never see no feds in this video. They returning fire, and they're returning it closer. They're close enough to where you can see the smoke, but you never see the people. Let me not say you never see the people. In that video, you don't see the people. Later on, after the man has been shot down and other people around, then you see somebody coming. And I'm going to get to that group that you see coming. But his assumption, what he says very clearly is, that's from the feds returning fire. Now, Mr. Tim Brown is heard saying, we got shots fired, shots fired. Again, who is he talking to and who talks like that? Shots fired, shots. If you call a 911, you don't call and say shots fired, shots fired. You call and you say what? Somebody just got shot or heard gunshots. So and so, so and so. And I'm panicky and I probably don't remember where I am. So they ask me where I am and I'm going to run it off so fast that she can't understand it, or I'm going to stumble trying to remember where I am. I didn't get that from him. I got shots fired, shots fired. He reports that SWAT is coming. Again, I can't see SWAT in the video. And from the vantage, it doesn't appear that he can either. So where he gets SWAT coming? Where does he get that from? Unless at some point he held the camera steady and was able to stick his head out around that wall to see if it was indeed SWAT. I don't know. Then you have Miss Wendy Harmon, the black female. So here we go. We got fear coming in. She says she doesn't feel safe. The reporter was asking her, how does it make her feel? What did she experience, et cetera, et cetera. She says, well, it makes her where she doesn't feel safe. So now we've got fear setting in. So the living in fear, just trying to handle day-to-day business, is reinforced. Fear, fear, fear. Live in fear, live in fear. And here's my question. Is this the same building with scaffolding that we see in another picture that's off limits due to crime scene investigation? So if it's off limits due to crime scene investigation in the other pictures, why is she and the reporters able to stand in front of this location and do an interview? Another witness, Mr. Lane Brown, he said the shooter was shooting randomly. And again, that's all the more reason why the reporter taking that close-up photo and the vehicle's not trying to escape stand out to me. Because if he's shooting randomly, then they don't know which way he's shooting. They don't know what he's going to do next. So you're just going to stay there? Or you're not going to try to get out of Dodge? Now, this SWAT. So this SWAT team that was supposedly en route. When you see toward the end of the video, you see a handful of officers, and they're not dressed out in SWAT uniform. Actually, they're in multiple different uniforms. Walk up like they're going into an active situation, but it didn't look like an active situation. It was kind of, if they were actors, they were acting poorly, put it that way. All the others already had him covered. He was already down, and they didn't appear to be in a hurry. So I don't know what SWAT team that was, but they did not appear to be in a hurry. But it just looked. I don't want to put them down, because if that's the best they have, then that's the best they have. But I don't know if I would want them to be my SWAT team coming to get me if somebody's holding me hostage. Now the shooter himself, within a couple hours, his Facebook page is deleted. Wouldn't they want to keep it for evidence? Why would they want to hide his Facebook page? Is it possible that his family may have wanted to retain any pictures or memories or whatever may have been in his Facebook? They didn't even have that opportunity. I did see a video where, and they allowed the police allowed certain things to be released. They captured his social media, took control of it, deleted what they needed to delete, and allowed to be released what they chose to be released. They released a video where he talked about not having much longer. It's kind of you'll see the video in the links. It's a storm coming. It's kind of spooky, not spooky, scary, but it makes your hair stand up like, okay, what's on this man's mind? Something ain't right. And he does have posts of, there were posts of guns, swastikas. He mentioned Ruby Ridge. He mentioned Waco, etc. So here's one of my questions. If you and I say the wrong word or the wrong words on any of these social media posts, we're already under investigation. We're already being watched. We're probably put in Facebook jail or YouTube jail or something for a couple of days. Our channel's getting strikes and all this other stuff. Now, if he's got all of that on his page, they never looked at him. They didn't already have him under a closer eye. Because we later find out that no, he was not under any particular watch or anything like that. He was not being monitored or targeted, or targeted is not the correct word. They weren't paying any extra special attention to him. Well, here's my question: why not? If those are the indicators that something might be amiss with this gentleman, why weren't you watching him? Because those would definitely be indicators to make you watch some other people. Here's the other thing. He was dressed in body armor. Now, he is prior military, but he was dressed in body armor. So if he was dressed in body armor, I don't know where he was hit, but I kind of got the impression either arm or leg, either that left arm or that left leg. So for them to have hit him and killed him, I don't know what ammo they were using, what close range. We couldn't visibly see him, so we know it had to be several yards. I'm sorry, we couldn't visibly see them in the video. So no, we know it had to be several yards. Again, I'm not sure what firepower they were working with, but they hit him in the head for him to have died instantly on the scene like that. There was no blood spilling out anywhere. I didn't see, from what I could see of the pictures, I didn't see a pool of blood. I didn't see, any of that to make me think. So, I mean, it just didn't sit right. But he had to be shot in certain places at a certain distance in order to penetrate that armor. Or continually, repeatedly in the same spot would have helped penetrate that armor. Well, I didn't hear that many shots fired. So I wonder about that. His vehicle. One report said he left his vehicle at 8:37 a.m. and immediately began firing. So, again, who's looking at their watch to see what time he left his vehicle? And why are they looking to see what time he left his vehicle? Where'd they get that information from? Maybe a camera. I forgot. Yeah, maybe some cameras. But who was looking at their watch and him at the same time? Then seconds later, he ran around the corner and fired at the glass of the entrance on that side as well. And they found his vehicle nearby. How did they find his vehicle? It was parked on the street, so how do they know which vehicle was his? He wasn't under any particular watch. And if his vehicle was nearby, that meant he was able to walk from his vehicle to the building with the body armor on. I mean, his face covered up, masked and all, eye protection in place, and get to the building and start firing. They knew he left his vehicle at 8:37, so that means they knew where his vehicle was. It was parked on the street, though. His vehicle was parked on the street. It wasn't in a parking lot where, you have to put money in the meter and you have to identify the license tags or whatever the case may be. So, obviously, y'all still putting together what happened. He's under no watches. But you find his vehicle so quickly. And then you send in a robot. Within minutes of clearing it, you decide to blow the car up anyway. So your robot goes and checks and says, oh, well, we need to demolish, we need to blow this car up because, just out of an abundance of caution. There's every time again, abundance of caution. Why would they just assume to go check for potential explosives? Is that normal? You have a shooter, you track down their vehicle, and you go as well as neighboring buildings and you look for explosive in all those places. Now, there are conflicting reports about this. Initially, I'll share what was initially said and then what was later came back and said. They weren't taking it back to the building, back to the lab. They were going to blow it up there. They weren't taking it back for a full analysis, for forensics. Their decision to blow up the vehicle, did they provide his, there was no intent to provide his family an opportunity to get any of his possessions or his wallet, any pictures, any keys, anything like that, his bank book. No, we don't do books these days, his debit card or, whatever the case may be. Mm. Now, if you sent your equipment in to check for explosives, your equipment said no explosives, but out of an abundance of caution, you're going to blow it up anyway. So, do you not trust your equipment? Why is it, here's the question overall, why is it when we have these emergencies, things keep getting dustified and are pulverized, uh, demolished to a point of dust to where if someone came later and checked behind it, the evidence, the crime scene is tainted so to the point where you can't make good sense out of what's going on anyway. But the follow-up press conference that was held later said the vehicle he arrived in had been taken off-site for an inspection investigation, and it doesn't mention demolition. So I'm not sure what they finally did with that, but those were just two conflicting reports there. Now, what about the scene security? So if this area is now a crime scene, one of the photos, and as you look through, I'm going to put the links in the description. As you look through one of the photos, it shows police cars blocking off a road, but behind the car, you see a bunch of pedestrians walking the sidewalk. So I didn't see any caution tapes preventing them from entering the street over there. So I'm kind of like, if the police car is blocking cars from going down that road, but people could walk on the sidewalk down that road, didn't quite sound right to me. Next thing about this crime scene security, you got a journalist, and he's here just snapping pictures all over the place. I mean, he's walking up to the body taking pictures. Couple other things I saw, and as you see in this picture, there were dozens of ambulances, police, fire on the scene, and they remained. Once they realized it was just the one shooter, there were no other injuries, etc., they all remaining on the scene. Well, don't they got to go help other people somewhere? Then the report said witnesses said that officers tried to perform CPR on him. Now my first thought was, what the what? They tried to perform CPR on him? Now, how many people they have shot dead in the road, and it's usually us, that they shoot dead in the road, and they're laying there. Never once do they put on a glove and try to perform any kind of life-saving measures. But this particular shooter, he drives up, he parks his vehicle, he gets out at 8:37, begins shooting, goes around the corner, shoots some more. They shoot him from afar. We never see them shooting him through the video, but they shoot him from afar, supposedly take him out. All we see is his feet, and then they get over there, they crowd around him, and they try to perform CPR on him. I don't know, y'all. That just didn't. I just think of how many black boys lay dead or dying, and CPR is not even attempted. They calling for him, waiting on ambulances to come do whatever. What they're supposed to be doing as trained officers. Now, they took off his vest at the crime scene. They turned him over. They put on gloves, and they tried to do CPR. They took off his vest. Well, they would have had to turn him over to take the vest off because it snaps. The straps usually come around the Velcro usually come around around the front body part. So they had to turn him over. But is that not disturbing a crime scene? So if they felt the need to do CPR and it was okay to disturb the crime scene to do that, how many others lay dead in the road, even on their backs? You don't have to turn them, and the officers don't even bother to try to perform anything life-saving. So, some more questions. As I said, with the extensive Facebook post of weapons, military, some might say some of it's odd or eccentric. Why wasn't he on a watch list? And honestly, what I saw was not enough to put him on a watch list to me. There may have been some more stuff that I didn't see, but either way, um, we got to know that they don't share everything, but there must be more. I mean, they can watch his calls, purchases, whereabouts, etc. But why allow it to get that far? If someone can be censored for using one wrong word, but he's got firearms, you see him shooting, you see him in strange, kind of odd, whatever. You might want to watch him, but not necessarily put him on a watch list. He might be on the secondary list or a tertiary list. Um, that black male shooter that shot a paramedic in Dallas just the month before was on the watch list for anti-government potentiality. But this guy is posting anti-government stuff. He's posting about Ruby Ridge and Waco and MK Ultra and the Tuskegee experiment. He's posting about all of that, but he's not on the watch list. But you got a black male who posted anti-government stuff, and he's on the watch list. Okay. And I see this open door just to justify watching whomever they choose to identify as a potential threat. Congress, has already had hearings about the new domestic terror organizations and how many of the black organizations were on that list. You can go look it up. um, how, there's domestic terrorism, and bottom line, the focus is just primarily on black people and black organizations. It's not on the Caucasians. So I also see this opening the door for the red flag HR 8 laws that failed to get headway in Texas. Governor Abbott at one point brought it up. The lieutenant governor and the people said no, and it was dropped. And that's where they seize your guns based on suspicion, based on anonymous complaints, or any information that law enforcement obtains that determines you might be mental or potentially suicidal or homicidal, and they can just come take up your stuff. And then you get to go through a process, go before a judge, and whatever they tell you to do, whatever hoops they say jump through to prove that you're sane and you're able to get your weapons, you get to go jump in those hoops at your expense. However long it takes you to jump those hoops. Now, here's the thing. You can jump whatever hoop they tell you, and then when you get back to them, they can say, here's one more hoop to jump. Or, no, I see you did all of this, but I need another 6 months or another year or another 2 years of you showing me that you're good. Everything's hunky-dory before I give you your stuff back. And most people are not going to have the money to go through all of that, to fight that. So gun seizure, that's the way you avoid repealing the Second Amendment. His dad, like I said he was a great shot. And so the fact that he was shooting randomly and he didn't hit anyone led him to believe that the boy was on a suicide mission. If he was a great shot, that makes sense to me too. The other thing I noted here was gun control legislation. Texas has open carry. Some basic restrictions, obviously schools, government buildings, etc., airports, and any private property that's properly posted with the appropriate signage for whether you can carry concealed, whether you open carry, neither, both, whatever. Texas has open carry already. So we already have legislation, not just Texas, but I mean we, United States, there's already legislation in place that prevents certain mental health individuals from purchasing firearms. We don't need new legislation. We just need to use what we already have. And this making the masses suffer for a few, it's got to stop. Someone with a temporary depression, because the mom died, the dog died, and it's got them down for 2 or 3 weeks. It could be that time that they're showing bad behavior or depressive behavior, and they could be diagnosed with depression. Depression could be associated with a particular illness, but they're not necessarily a danger to themselves or others. the husband and wife getting divorced. She's mad at him, and this was a real case out in California, I believe. They're getting divorced. The wife wanted to mess with his firearms, mess him over, so she's got him over. They've got him over there based on her complaints that he doesn't need these firearms because he's mental. Da da da, all of that. I see that opening the door for so many people to get messed over unfairly. And did I say wrong diagnoses? Did I say we know how many times you walk into a doctor's office now and the first thing the doctor wants to know is, have you been depressed lately? How's your sleeping? How's all those signs, those ticker tape warning signs of any kind of mental issues? Those are the questions they're asking everybody that walks into the doctor's office, even the children. And if the child can't answer, they're asking mom and dad to fill out those forms, and then the doctor turn around and re-ask you when they get in the office because they're looking for people with depression or any kind of mental issues. All you have to do is say, yeah, she's not been sleeping lately, and she's been, I don't know, a little bit more aggressive, a little acting out. We don't know why she's acting out. She could be acting out because something's hurting her and she doesn't know how to explain it. She could be acting out because her parents are fighting in the house all the time. She could be acting out because her dog died. That doesn't mean that she gets to get a diagnosis. She has to be watched and followed. And here's my last thought on this. With all the shootings in the Dallas area, and here, this guy in El Paso drove all the way down from Dallas, down to the border. With all the shootings going from a couple summers back to where police were targeted. I remember that summer, the police were targeted. It was some man and he was shooting at the police. I can't remember how many officers he took out. Maybe 3 or 4, I think. And there have been officer civilian shootings. We know about the Geiger, I can't call her name, the Amanda Geiger, Andy Geiger, Amy Geiger, whatever her name is. The Geiger, the one that shot John, y'all know his name. The one that lived in the apartment and went into the apartment, supposedly it was the wrong one, who knows, whatever. Amber Geiger, that's her name. Or just plain person-to-person shooting. All of that's going on. We have to ask ourselves, what's really going on here? So that's my take on the Dallas shooting. Put it out there. But again, one of the points, and especially for black people, the gentleman, the shooter in this case, is a white male. And my intent in doing this story was to remove the emotion of a black male being involved so that you guys can look at these things more objectively, with less bias, hopefully, and be able to analyze everything that you see and everything that you don't see, everything that you hear and you don't hear, catch the discrepancies, catch the consistencies, catch the oddities, the anomalies, catch all of that before you decide to get angry and go picketing, before you decide to get angry and, revoke someone in office, out of office, take matters into your own hands, whatever it is. I just want you guys to think. Look at everything and think before you act. So hopefully you got that out of this. Feel free to drop your comments, like and share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. But just be mindful. Just be mindful. We know the media will not necessarily give us all the information that they get. Oftentimes there's they want ratings also. There's a sensational wow factor that they're competing for as well. So they're known to take people's comments and statements and evidence and information and present that which they choose to present and omit others, to shorten clips to only give you one sentence of without the preceding or the foregoing or the following content so that you can put it in context. You just get one little sentence and you assume that's the meat of the conversation when knowing the before and the after would really put it in context properly. So those are the things I need us to think about when we see these shootings. Before we get enraged and start taking to the streets and rioting and cutting up and all that other stuff. Be a little bit more strategic about what we do and how we do it. Be strategic in that you're planning for something to actually be effective if it can be. because rioting at this point is not really getting us anywhere. We have shootings, we riot for a couple of days, we tear up some stuff, burn down some cars, bust a couple store windows, loot some places, act a fool. I shouldn't say a fool, but act up. Um, Sometimes video cameras catch the people and they get charged later with some sort of vandalism or some sort of crime. And then nothing happens. And a month later, we have another situation. And it continues. It's like a cycle. Pay attention, guys. All right. Have a good one. Take care.